Welcome to the next video session on trimming and extending. In this video session, we will learn about trim command and extend command. The command equivalent of trim command is trim. The command equivalent of trim command is trim, or its shortcut command equivalent is tr. So let's select the trim command from the modify panel. So let's select trim tool from the modify panel, and after selecting the trim tool, simply press enter to select all. Now click on any segment which you would like to remove. For example, so let us assume that we would like to remove this segment. Then as I move the cursor near or above this segment, its color become more transparent and dull, and when I press left button, it disappears or it trims out. So you can basically do the trimming tasks to any of the segment in this drawing. Let's select trim command from the modify panel and press enter to select all. Now let's suppose you like to remove this portion or segment. Now when I move on this segment, the transparency of this segment increases and it becomes dull. And when I click it, it trims out. Now we can do the same type of tasks for any of the segment which we would like to trim out in the similar way. Now let's suppose I would like to trim this segment between this line and this line. So let me select this segment and it trims out. Now let's press escape key and go to the initial stage of our geometry. So basically all of the geometries can be trimmed using trim tool. So now select the trim tool again, and now press enter to select all. And when you press enter, you can look at the command line that it prompts you to select from multiple options. So the first option is fence. Using this option, you can create fences, and all the paths which are crossed by the fence will be trimmed. For example, you can see that I have drawn a fence, and when I press enter, all those segments which is touched by the fence are trimmed or removed. All the segments are trimmed, and let's press Ctrl and Z to go back to our initial stage or the original geometry. Go to the trim command again, and now in the previous cases we have directly pressed enter to select all the line segments in the drawing area, and by selecting the object we were essentially allowing the trim tool to trim object with the very next boundary. But in this case we select the boundaries which will be selected for trimming. So let's assume that we would like to trim our object only with respect to this blue line. our blue boundary. So let's select the blue boundary and press enter. Now when you click on the object, it will be trimmed up to the blue boundary, as you can see. But if you select this pink boundary, nothing will happen to this line because it's completely inside the blue boundary. So in this case, it will not be trimmed. We can see the black boundary. Let's try to trim that black boundary, but it seems that we cannot trim the black line. It's because the black line is a single line segment and it haven't crossed the blue boundary line, so it cannot be trimmed. So now let's press escape key and press Ctrl and Z to get back to the original geometry. So let's talk about the extend tool. The extend tool is completely opposite of trim tool and it extends the geometry to the next boundary. So for selecting the extending tool or extend tool, we'll make a line here just like this. Now I'll go to the extend tool and select it. Now it says select object. Now let me select this as my object and press enter. Now it says, now let me set the boundary as this. So for selecting extend tool, now I will go to the flyout button right here and select the extend tool and press enter to select all the objects. Now we have selected all the objects, and whenever the next boundary is found, object will be extended. So in this case, I will click on this line and you will notice that it will extend up to the next boundary, which is this yellow boundary here. So when I click on this line, it will extend a yellow boundary, which is the next boundary or the first boundary to which this line meets. And when I press the extend command again and select the same line, so now let me select the extend tool and select all boundaries, and whenever I place the cursor over this line tries to extend up to the next boundary, which is this yellow boundary. And when I click left button, it extends its boundary up to this boundary. And when I take the cursor back to the line, it tries to extend up to the next boundary, which is this blue color boundary. And this process goes on repeating as I click. Press enter. So let's go back to our geometry by pressing Ctrl and Z. Now, as the same way in the trim command, we can extend our line up to the desired boundary by simply clicking on the boundary. To do this, click the extend command and select the object as this black boundary and press enter, and then click on the line. So here you can see that the line extends up to the black boundary which was specified as the boundary to extend the line up to. So in this way you can use the trim command or reduce the line and extend command to extend or increase the length of a line.